Thanks for staying with us. Now, according to experts, service delivery is poor in the country because officials are recycled within the public service. Some say cabinet ministers, director generals of government departments, and executives of state-owned entities should be held personally liable for mismanagement, waste, and corruption under their watch to bring accountability into public life. Let's explore this further. We're joined by political analyst Ebrahim Harvey. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Harvey. We do appreciate it. I think when people look at democratic South Africa, they get very concerned because questions are raised as what is really democratic about our country. People don't have basic services like water, electricity, and the rest. And a lot of our departments are in complete shambles. What's your view about democratic South Africa?
Well, there's very little about, if you talk about democracy at local level, which is the most important level where, you have this possibility of the direct involvement, of citizens in the provision of services. We've got a problem here. Whoever's telling you, the experts, that the problem might lie with the lack of continuity or movement around of ministers or director generals, is not really addressing the most important problems. Is not that kind of structural issues. What it is really, you got to go back to the Municipal Systems Act of 2000. What it did, it commercialized, corporatized basic services. That's why you've got Joburg Water, you've got City Power, you've got Pick It Up. And so what they did was they turned basic services into, these are municipal utilities, 1 foot in the public sector, 1 foot in the private sector. They're registered under the Companies Act. So they're there to make profit, really. And if you can't afford to pay, well, then you have to join the indigency program. It's a very demeaning and stigmatizing program. And that's why you have a low take-up. If you look at the number of people who are unemployed, who should, in fact, be on the indigency program, they're not. There are serious problems with it. But the reason why you've got this unstoppable avalanche of protests, it started in the Free State in 2004, June, 18 years now, nonstop, violent and combustible. It's really got to do with a combination of reasons. And here they are, the most important, really. I've studied this area. The ANC's cadre deployment policy. And here you can see I support completely the DA's challenge. They're hoping to make this policy unconstitutional. They're now in court with it. The primary reasons is the inappropriate placing of deployment of people who never had the skills, qualifications to be running these basic services, certainly to administer them and lead the provision of these services. And then on top of it, what you've got is that there's a serious problem, and it began with the Igoli 2002, 1999 program, and then 2000, the Municipal System Act kicks in. That is where, so what is happening really, with basic services, which now is in the worst state ever. I mean, who can believe that basic services was better during the apartheid period, believe me, than what it is in post-apartheid South Africa. The townships are in a total mess. Everything is falling apart. The sewerage system, sanitation, water, the basic services are in the very worst condition currently than they have ever been, I'm saying, even during the apartheid period. And really,
I just want to jump in there. I'm so sorry to interject. But you speak about, for example, cadre deployment. And I think the big question here is there even space and room for that in our democratic states? We have a strap running saying recycling of public officials, and that is often what we do see, where we see ministers being moved around, and the young people are calling out and saying, we know what the challenges are on the ground, but it just doesn't seem as though government's really getting it, and there's a huge issue of cadre deployment. What would you say about this?
Yes, but you see, Heidi, it's not only the cadre. What works together with the cadre deployment, in fact, is the key reason why, is the pillage. These people have stolen a massive amount of resources, ANC cadres that have been deployed. It's not just that they've lacked qualifications. Those same people have stolen, the estimated 1.5 to 2 trillion rands, have been stolen. And the Zondo Commission has a focus on the SOEs. Believe me, when you get down to local government level, it might even be worse. The corruption, fraud that has been going on at local government level. But the theft of massive public resources is one of the reasons that has contributed to a lack of funds and the problems of service delivery, because obviously without appropriate, the necessary resources, you can't deliver services. So there's a combination of reasons. The nature of the policies, cadre deployment, and the massive theft of public resources by officials at all levels, and I believe it includes municipalities. And I believe me, if you've got a commission of inquiry that focuses on municipalities, you're going to find out things that might even make what has happened with the Zondo Commission and state-owned enterprises look mild by comparison. I'm convinced about that. You've got much more things that has happened at municipal level that has not yet been uncovered, and I think in the years to come, it probably might need a kind of commission of inquiry. The SOEs, the Zondo Commission has focused on SOEs largely, and it has not, and it has admitted that it has not gone into municipal level. And I really tell you, there's a lot to be discovered there. But, Heidi, it's a combination of reasons. If you want to talk of why we've got a service delivery crisis, it's not one reason. It's a combination of reasons, but primarily the ANC inappropriately deploying people who never had any skills. Why do you think the DA, the most successful municipality is the Western Cape? It's directly got to do with those people who have studied the UCT, they're skilled, qualified people there. That's the reason why the DA, is running the best province is the Western Cape. And you can see what has happened with the ANC's cadre deployment policy, particularly at local government level, which is where the rubber hits the tarmac, so to say, where basic services, are delivered. And where these issues of the control and involvement of citizens, I mean, these wards of the ANC, they don't involve the citizens at all. There's IDP plans that they're supposed to directly involve people in the townships in developing the plans. It doesn't happen. That doesn't happen at all. These ANC structures, and they do their own thing there. And often people feel sidelined. You go and do research in the townships. People are not involved directly in these ward committees that are run by the ANC, and their so-called cadres. So Heidi, it's a complex situation and a combination of reasons at work here,
Yes, I want to pick your mind. I'm so sorry I keep interjecting you, but I want to pick your brain on something that you said that was quite worrying. And I've heard this multiple times, having covered protest action, having covered communities, townships that say they are fed up with the lack of service delivery and the care from governments, where you said service delivery during the apartheid time was a whole lot better, and you said you're sorry to say this. And I want to ask you who you think should be held accountable. It's a question we always ask: who should be held accountable, who should be responsible for what's currently happening on the ground and to the people of South Africa. But I think it's an important question because it just seems as though no one's getting it and nobody understands the severity of the problem.
No, immediately it's the relevant councillors and the relevant minister, for this department of local government. But let me tell you, ultimately, the service delivery crisis is of such a magnitude. It is so serious. I mean, if you can imagine how serious it is if we say that under apartheid it was not as bad as it is now, when you really expected things would fundamentally change, with service delivery. Look, it's got actually worse. But ultimately, I believe really the cabinet, the NEC of the ANC has to place the problems. You can see they lost 2016. They lost 2021. What is it telling you? What is it telling you? 2 successive local government elections, the ANC has been trounced. And you thought they would learn after 2016. They lost 2021 again. Come on. These are basic things. The ANC needs to get its house in order, and not just the relevant local councillors and minister. The cabinet has to place this thing as the uppermost priority, really. Otherwise, I'm afraid to say, really, what you've seen so far, Let's Mbeki often talks about a stirring rebellion, in the depths of what's happening in the townships. I really think we've seen last year I mean, those people, the July riots could only have did what they did because they were exploiting latent, evident, deep unhappiness of people, with what has been happening, particularly at local level. And I really urge that the cabinet, the NEC of the ANC places service delivery right on top of their priorities,
Mr. Harvey, I hope so, because just seeing the state of these communities and seeing what people are being subjected to, I'll never forget a story that our cameraman Ngeben Klanganiso did in the Eastern Cape, where people were rolling in drums to get across the river because no bridge had been built. It's atrocious, and hopefully these conversations trickle down to the right people. Thank you so much for always making time for us. That was political analyst Ebrahim Harvey.